Welcome to BC Wines and Vines. I'm your host, Christopher Mark. This episode is sponsored by Vintality, a supportive hub to help you realize all your vineyard aspirations using quantitative data gathering and analysis, precision viticulture tools, community connection with a love for terroir in its truest form. Whether mapping subsoil irrigation or chlorophyll efficiency, Vintality pushes the edges of science and terroir to help you create better fruit more sustainably and profitably. Vintality also has a weekly newsletter with BC Wine news, useful resources, and interesting articles, whether you're a winemaker, on the business side, in the vineyard, or just passionate about wine. You can sign up at the website vintality.ca. This episode's guest is John Clerides. John is the owner of the incredibly successful Marquis Wine store, the most popular wine shop in BC, and a frequent traveler throughout the wine regions of the world. I always love talking to John, both because of his strong desire to push the wine industry forward and because of his very blunt way of doing it. Another theme you'll notice is one that many wine experts experience in that moment of transition from knowing very little about wine to discovering this huge, varied world. John's story is no different, and he has the European receipts to back it up. He'll also share how to take BC wine to the next level, why that requires generational knowledge, and why he thinks it needs to happen under an organic or biodynamic banner. In this conversation, I was also joined by my friend Anthony Rasotto, a financial planner working with small businesses, and you'll hear from him as well. We recorded this conversation in John's wine shop, and you can find the video at our channel, Vintality. Ultimately, you'll hear from John how he's built a loyal network of customers and winemakers around the world. John is a respected voice in the industry and someone always worth listening to. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I think you will too. Yeah, so why don't we kick it off a little bit? Why don't you tell us, you have a really interesting history with your family coming here from Cyprus, so definitely would be interested in hearing a bit about that.
So, Cole's Notes version. So my mom came here in 1948 from a small island called Skopelos. For those of you probably don't know where it is, but you know the movie Mamma Mia. That's the island. So it took her like 5 days to get here. To Skopelos, Athens, London, Gander Goose Bay, Winnipeg, Vancouver. So it was a long journey. I think my dad came in like 1952. First Montreal, then he worked in Kitimat, worked in Nelson, then Vancouver, and got in the restaurant business. They were there. They opened their first restaurant in 1958 in the corner of Robson and Thurlow. Where Joe Forte's is. That used to be our parking lot. There used to be a house there when I was a kid with some cool old lady living in the bottom and a wacky lady living at the top, or vice versa. Anyway, she used to collect newspapers, or about 4 feet deep, and the house eventually burnt down. Anyway, we had a restaurant there till the early 80s, and sold it. And then my father bought a restaurant on Robson and Thurlow, and it was the old Black Angus. It's at Denny's there today. So long history, story in the restaurant business. Got started in the wine business in January or February 86. I'm having breakfast with my dad. He's having coffee. I'm reading the sports page. And he sees this article about how Mission Hill Vineyards is allowed by the liquor board or liquor licensing to open off-site wine shops. Bought a franchise from them. And I think we started the process in February of 86. And it was my first lesson in bureaucracy and how slow government works.
First of many.
Yeah, very first of many. Missed all of Expo, 86, and we opened in November of 1986. Right? First day of sales were like $119. Mostly. Oh, and we only sell BC wine. Yeah. So it was Mission Hill, California Cooler, and Okanagan Cider. California Cooler was big. It was huge back then.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it was the first refreshment beverage, and Mission Hill had the license to bottle it, and they did, and it was huge. California Cooler was huge, and it's had its day. So it's over with, obviously, now.
Yeah.
All sorts of different refreshment beverages are out in the market. And there were, I think, 10 or 11, 12 private wine shops. And we were on a consignment basis. And so we didn't get paid for really 60 days. We have to do inventory at the end of the month, went into the liquor board in Mission Hill, and then we get a check at the end of the next month. So stores weren't doing very well. BC wineries were just starting to come, and we asked to sell other BC wines. They refused. We had some contract with them, but
and that's Mission Hill refused.
Mission Hill refused at the time. Anyway, we worked through that. And then we were allowed to carry other BC wines. And then serendipitously, GATT and NAFTA were ratified, and we were allowed to carry imported wines. So nothing the government would do to allow private wine stores to flourish. It had to be an international agreement that forced their hand, much like the Save-On Foods and imported wines today.
So then how did you, like where, because you're coming from restaurant, like where did your wine knowledge come from early?
There are no wine courses here. There was, I think, I bought the I still have it, the New York Times book on wine. I mean, Napa was like 10 pages. And so where did my knowledge come from is just traveling and reading. There was one formal course put on by a guy called Richard Karras. He's still in business. He's been in business for decades and decades. Great guy. And took that course, but it's nothing like the WSET today or the Master Sommelier course. There were I think the Master of Wine was around, but I had not heard of it. And so I just bought books and read and then traveled about. And that's where my knowledge came from.
What was your first book that you read?
That New York Times book. And then Kermit Lynch's book, Adventures on the Wine Route, which is, for me, one of the seminal books. Is how I modeled my store after just, small producers and making it a nice place to shop. His store is I like going there. It's in Berkeley in California. So whenever I go to Napa, I always stop there, buy a few bottles.
Yeah, so when you say again, obviously you said I'm focusing on small producers, but what else, like what differentiates his store? And then obviously I think a little bit of what you feel differentiates your store.
Oh, his store, he started his store in the early 70s. He was the first guy to recognize small growers, small producers, and highlight them, organic, biodynamic, all that stuff, unique wines. And so I kind of tried to model my store after that and just started, again, as I said, traveling about and looking for these people. And you got to remember, my French was rudimentary at best, which was my best subject in school, which is really not saying much. Maybe from average of 1.0 GPA, maybe 1.5. No, I liked French, but it had been, decades since I had, when did I start? 86, so 11 years. And there were no fax, faxes weren't invented. The internet was like, thing out of Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
So it was, writing letters type of thing and just traveling and knocking on doors.
So one place that you mentioned that you want to visit was the Italian wine merchant in New York.
Oh, I've been there.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was okay. I think a better store to go visit in New York is Italy. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Italy. Oh, it's amazing store. So it started in Italy. Hence the name Italy.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So I do some math here.
Yeah, and I forget the name of the owners. Anyway, it is. I've been to the store in Milan. I've been to the store in New York in the Flatiron. I think I went to another one. I can't recall. I know they have one in Rome. Anyway, the one in Milan is amazing. It's an old movie theater, kind of opera house. So it's got this horseshoe shape, and so anything and everything to do with Italian food and wine. And so the one in New York's got 7 different restaurants in there. Their wine selection is unbelievably impressive. All sorts of small producers. Olive oils, pastas. Italy is one of those countries that's blessed with regional identity, from Umbria to Sicily to Tuscany to Emilia-Romagna to Trentino. Each has their own individual wines, foods, traditions, history, and Italy brings them all together. And it's an amazing place. And if you're in Milan, that's a pilgrimage. to go to. Oh yeah, you got to go there. It's amazing. Pizza, you can have pizza, you can have meat. A few years ago, so I organized. I was asked to organize a tour, a river cruise, along around Venice. But we went to Milan. We flew in Milan, and I organized a tour of Italy, and we did a little tasting. I think they toured us around. They bake their own bread there. They bake their own salami. I mean, it's an incredible facility, and it's amazing. I love going there. It's cool.
So you start with $119 your first day?
Yeah.
So obviously you're doing more than $119 a day now.
Oh yeah.
Per client sometimes.
I know how much I spend in my own store, so I'd survive by myself in my own store if I just supported it myself.
So like, how did that initially? You're starting. Obviously, you're facing some bureaucratic challenges. You're starting from, like any business, it's a challenge, and I'm guessing obviously the wine market here is probably not very educated. How's the quality at that time
of BC wine?
Of the wine that you're able to sell?
Mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Some of the wines were, the fruit came from Washington State or Oregon, California, and was bottled up here and is labeled as local wines. Not that great, but they, here's the quality. Here's the qualifying. It was, it's not bad for a BC wine. So they qualified it.
Yeah.
Not bad for a BC wine. It's pretty good for a BC wine. And, today is like, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where it's from. You can't use that qualifier anymore. But that was a qualifier, being able to bring in a wine into my shop. Yeah, it was interesting times. And it was Sundays were our saving day because we were the only store open in British Columbia open on Sundays.
Why was that?
Because no stores were allowed to be open. We were the first private wine shop, and wine stores weren't allowed to be open. And there were other ones out, and they were obviously open on Sundays. So, that was our big day. We were open from 11 to 4 or 12 to 4, like 4 hours.
Yeah.
We do like $2,000 in a day, which was like, holy crap, that's big money.
Yeah. So then what was the next step from there? Like what?
So we knew we were going to get imported wines, and we moved to this location. But it was half the store. We filled the store the best we could with the BC wines that we had. We only had like 5 or 6 BC wines. So, one wine may have 10 spots in the store, right? And case cut it and filled it up. And then we got imported wines and just started stocking the store. But the funny thing was, I'll never forget this, is at the time, maybe there were like 10 agents or 8 agents. And they always would complain about the liquor board and, we can't get this wine listed and can't get that wine. I'm going to bring unique wines in. And so I contacted them and I said, okay, I want to have some unique wines. And it was the same stuff you see in the government stores. It was as though, do you guys have any imagination? Can't you see I want to do something differently? You're talking about what you see in California, New York, around the world when you travel. And yeah, I don't want to sell the 1 liter screw top for $6.99. I do. I'll sell it, but I want to bring in something kind of unique. So I got a little frustrated with that, and that's when I started to travel and do things, bring in my own stuff because I wasn't getting the support. Now, it's completely changed, and there's a plethora of small wine importers bringing in really small batch wines, unique wines. There's just literally thousands of wines available in the market today.
Then how did that traveling start, right? Like like walk us through literally at that, when did, but what year did you start? And then what were those early conversations? Were you just calling up the wineries or?
Yeah, just calling the wineries. And then we go to wine shows. Vintality was the wine show I went to first. That's where I found a lot of the wines, Italian wines I would bring in. I would somehow, I guess I would send them faxes. It's going back a long way.
What are faxes, John?
I don't know. Some people, I guess my daughter would know what the heck a fax was. So for those of you out there, I can't believe I'm saying that. Fax machine is oh no, mimeograph. That's my day.
Not pigeon carrier.
Legitimately don't know what that is.
So this mimeograph is like the precursor to a photocopier, but you would have to put alcohol in the machine. The sheets would come out literally wet, and they would smell like kind of boozy alcohol. And you're in grade 8, and it had this kind of cool.
Get a bunch of friends out back at the mimeograph.
Yeah. It was fun. And so fax machine it's called the facsimile machine. So you type something up, computers types it up, and you put it through this little machine, and somehow it digitally read and spat out the other end to some supplier in France that had a fax machine, and it was immediate, right? And they got the fax, and they would get a fax back, and it was like really cool. Oh, this is great! Not having to wait, 2 weeks for a letter, 3 weeks for a letter to come. Oh, it was, people were using telexes too.
Sorry.
But we don't.
I've never used one. Sometimes
So you call it these wineries, and you're just saying, hey,
I have to get French translation sent, right? Because my French was terrible. And then they would write back in France, and then I get the consulate or friend, and I get in my dictionary and go, okay, what is this? Oh yeah, and then it would all start coming back, right?
So you're speaking with these wineries, and you're setting up meetings to go when you
go and taste the wines, and then I like the wines and go back and put it what's called a special order in. And the government liquor board. This one of the good things about the liquor board is you can order. They still allow me to order wines that I want, and they put in a special order. And it comes through them.
How much of that is
how I
what you're
bring
doing?
my wines.
Like, how much of that has changed for you now? In terms of traveling, in terms of finding wines?
Oh, I still travel a lot, although with COVID, obviously, 2020 is
Maybe 5 years ago.
terrible. I'm sorry?
maybe 5 years from now.
Yeah, who knows? But this brings one thing. So here's the thing. So, we're not allowed to receive samples. There's only for official importers. So how am I supposed to assess a vintage? So I've written the liquor licensing. I said, I need to be able to have samples sent to me. And, there's a reason. There's always a reason to say no, because it's easier to say no in government than to say yes, because yes, it means it opens up a whole door. But they're going to have to figure that out pretty soon, because I'm not really going to let that go, much like I didn't, I asked historically customers. So we weren't allowed to deliver wine.
Yeah.
That was a big thing back then. We said, well, we should be able to deliver. This is the 20th century. I said, well, the customer has to come in the store. I said, well, what's the point? I mean, you pick up the phone or send an email or a fax, or you want the wine delivered. It's all about convenience. And, no, we don't know if it's going to go to an underage person and all that stuff. And so, after about 4 years. Oh, and another thing, anybody that came in and bought more than 4 cases of wine, the government considered them a licensee. So they had to sign a document. So you came in, you had to sign a document saying, I'm not a licensee and I'm not reselling it.
I'm having a wedding.
I'm sorry?
I'm having a wedding.
Yeah.
I'm buying a lot of wine.
Anyway, so clients really didn't like signing pieces of paper saying that they're not a licensee, but we had to do it. Worked out well for us. Yeah. And just bring wines in that no one else has, so we can get customers that make our store a destination place.
Yeah.
Unique wines, small family producers, organic, biodynamic, things like that. Makes a big difference.
The question I have then is what, and you've kind of answered it, but like what makes, because I mean, obviously your wine store is, probably the best well-known in BC, right? And so what's differentiated you, right? I mean, all of Cole's with wineries, and just, mention that when we're doing our webinars, BC Wine Weekly, like, oh, John's going to be on, and there's some people who've said to me, well, I got to get on because John was stocking my wine, and, now he's not. Like people want to be here, wineries want to be here, right? And obviously people want to shop here. So what do you think it's that you've done that has really separated you?
I don't think there's. I think honesty. I mean, we don't bullshit about wines. If the customer thinks, wow, what's this wine? What's this wine like? We will tell them honestly, and we won't bring. If we don't like a wine, we won't bring it in. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that. But if we don't like something, we're not going to bring it in. Unique selection. I think a good high level of service, knowledgeable people. We'd like to train our staff. We, send them on trips and travel. Internet and convenience, we deliver. And all those types of things, making sure the customer's taken care of, whether they spend $10 or $100, $100 a bottle. Good service all the time. Parking, all that type of stuff. And I think internet's a big part of that too.
Yeah. Well, I think you're a big part of that as well. Like, definitely a lot of community involvement over the years.
Oh yeah. I like that. I like one of our mandates is always to support small local charitable events, community events. There's all the big mucky muck events where they raise millions of dollars, but there's a lot of organizations out there that are grassroots that do a lot of good work and don't necessarily have a lot of support or a lot of money. And if it fits within our mantra and what we do, like here's a classic example. There's a organization that I work with. It's called Fresh Roots, growing chefs, and they grow. Where do they grow? I always screw the school up. Van Tech, I can't recall it. Anyway, they do these long. I've gone 3 years in a row. It would have been 4 years this year. They do these long table dinner series. They have students serve food, and they grow food, or they grow food in the schoolyard. And I can't remember the name of the school. I apologize. I just spoke to them yesterday. And then we sponsor the wine. They have kids serve it. They help organize it. And it's about, and I think they've supplied like 35,000 lunches this year, or meals so far because of COVID. I have the number written in my book. And this is like earnest people, hardworking people who really want to have this really cool social consciousness and want to do some good in the community. I mean, there's a lot of kids out there that don't eat healthy. Parents maybe don't know how to cook properly, and this teaches the kids how to do that. Yeah, it's pretty cool organization. So we just support them with wine, and we'll get on social media and support them best way we can. And I think they're going to do little picnic lunch baskets to all the participants this year, and we're throwing in a little bottle of wine in there. Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Awesome.
I like doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it almost kind of fits a little bit like what you're targeting in terms of your wines as well.
Yeah, but it's also a good charity. It's a good organization. Yeah.
I mean, just in terms of you want small, hardworking people, local.
Exactly, because that's what the community is made up of, and they seem to be getting squashed or ignored, and I don't think that's right. So anything I can do to support it. I physically can't work it out, but anything I do, I'll support it. Can't support everybody, but I like this organization. It's pretty cool.
So kind of looking back on kind of that first period where you're kind of just opening up, you've now just started traveling, you're bringing in kind of new wines from around the world. Yeah. What's kind of looking back just over that rough period? Is there kind of anything looking back on you really wish you'd done differently early? Like, is there anything kind of you look back as like a key learning you had? And I'm asking you to narrow it down from the,
Maybe gone to school and learn a little bit more business instead of doing it by the seat of your pants. That does certainly help. Anything that I would have done differently. Probably, I think maybe learn to be a better retailer. But no, I don't think so. That's all part of the learning process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I guess that's kind of what I'm asking is like what, maybe not so much do differently, but that you've really learned. So maybe walk us through a little bit when you say like be a better retailer, what is that? Like, what does that mean? I'm always hard on myself and just a little bit better shopping environment. I'm working on it right now. Just a little bit, maybe more information on wines, maybe, more organic, more biodynamic wines. I mean, we have a ton of stuff in the store. Maybe a little bit more diverse selection from Italy, because Italy is a huge, huge country, and it's could be better represented. But overall, I think we do okay. And if anyone has any criticism or comments or ideas, then let me know, and I'll get going on it.
You've mentioned biodynamic a few times.
Yeah.
What's your enthusiasm behind transition there?
I like the wines. I think they have a lot of a lot more authenticity, really speak of the place. They take care of the land, and I really like the wines and what they do. And I've tasted hundreds and hundreds of biodynamic wines. Overall, what they do, I think, is great. And I just like them. There's just so many of them out there. You can't. I mean, I guess I could triple my selection in my store, but then you wouldn't be able to walk around, and I wouldn't have any money to buy anything else. It'd be cool to maybe have some underground wine storage, things like that. Little added value.
Build a basement? Is that next?
Oh, we have a basement in the store, but it's full of wine.
Another basement.
It'll be like one of those during Prohibition. You'll just have just a full underground.
The thought has occurred to me before. Not such a bad idea, but I better not do it. Got to stay above the law.
So you're now traveling. You've got a bigger selection of wine. Kind of what's next after this? Now that you obviously your own wine knowledge is growing rapidly. Actually, maybe a quick question I had is, what was it like where you're I don't know where your knowledge is at, but you're kind of going to these first wineries, obviously, they have pride in what they're doing, and like, how was that managing that, where maybe you didn't know, obviously you didn't know nearly as much as you knew now.
Right. You're always, this business, God, I mean, you never stop learning in this business. There's always someone doing something different that you've never heard of. And keeping track of it is a full-time job, and then some. And you really need to be living in Europe. That's where the action is. I mean, you've got Spain, France, Italy, Austria, Germany, even the UK, Sicily, Greece, all making wines, really, really diverse. So that's where all the action is, at least in my opinion. And if you really want to know, keep on top of it, be, I guess, independently wealthy, and just go to as many tastings and dinners as possible and visit as many people.
If you figure that one out, let me know.
Yeah, if I try to figure, I'm still working on it. So that would be, that's how I would stay on top of it. I've always wanted to do that. Spend like 3 months and 4 months in France and just go to all these events all over the place. It'd be fun.
Part of what I'm wondering, though, is where, like a challenge for a lot of us is where you're entering a situation where there's obviously a lot of history. You're going to these wineries fairly new to it, right, when you're traveling, and you're trying to make informed decisions where you lack a lot of information, you lack a lot of experience, and you're also dealing with people who obviously are experienced, who have been potentially farming their vineyard for generations. How did you manage that early experience?
You compare and contrast. So you just don't go to one winery and then go home. If you go to Burgundy, you visit 40 or 50. That's what I do. And then you see some guy in Volnay, he's doing this, and another guy in Volnay, his neighbor's doing that, another guy in Volnay, and then someone in Pommard, and you go, and you put it all together. And then you do a little bit of reading. You read the good Burgundy writers, Alan Meadows and Steen Larson and a few other people, and then you go, okay, this is what they say, and this is what I heard when I'm there, and this is what I tasted. Yeah, that works, or that doesn't work, or I don't quite understand that. So it's a puzzle that you put together. It's just not from one source.
Any interesting stories of the language barrier traveling over there? Because I know you had to get the translator.
More getting lost than anything. There wasn't GPS, and you got your Michelin map out. And
what year are we talking earlier?
Oh, I can't remember. It's got to be the early 90s. Yeah. And signage sucks. It's way better now. And then you're looking for addresses on the side of, and they're like 2x2, but you go to a village and then you ask someone, you show them on a piece of paper where this is, and they go here, and then you start knocking on doors and door creaks open. And there's your appointment, right? GPS has certainly helped, and I learned along the way. Can you please supply me with precise, exact directions to your domain? And now it's like, you go to Burgundy and I have an appointment here. I know where it is. Unless it's a new place, I just know how to get there. Bordeaux's really easy, more or less.
So then now, how are you, now that obviously you've built a network kind of around the world, you've got relationships, I mean, I remember when I was here, when you had, I think it was the head of the Austrian Wine Association. That was so crazy to me, coming in here just for a tasting, and there's you built a relationship with that guy, and here he is talking about.
Yeah, well, so Willie used to work for Angelo Gaia. He was his export manager for years, so that's where I first met him. And then my friend Bertold Solomon was head of that, and then Willie Klinger. So I just managed, this business is all about connections and meeting people. So the more events you go to, the more dinners you go to, the more people you meet. And then they know that you're serious. So then I met Willie, but prior to that, every 2 years I was invited to Austria to go to VA Vinum and taste through Austrian wine. So I'd, make my notes. I'd get all the books. Who do I want to taste? And spend 3 or 4 days tasting, 300-400 wines and go, okay, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, right? And, have my plan, have my book and map laid out because it's in the tasting hall, much like the Vancouver Wine Festival, but in the Habsburg Palace where the Habsburgs used to live. Which is, it's pretty nice.
That's an okay tasting.
A gazillion rooms in the middle of Vienna. Yeah. Much better than just a hall with tables. It's still a big room with tables, but it's a nice environment.
It's a room with tables in the Habsburg Palace.
It's pretty nice. And then you taste through the wines, and then you make your notes, and you have a plan, and you try to do it systematically, so you're not wasting time. It's a lot of work, and. But that's how you go to wine tasting if you don't go to the wineries themselves.
No, I was just curious because that's how you build those relationships back then. But what are you finding challenging or opportunistic now in our current environment?
In COVID, you mean?
To build these relationships. And
well, is staying in communication with them. I sent a big email out to all of my suppliers saying, I may not be ordering wine, and I'm going to see how things work out. And they're all pretty cool about that. Thanks for keeping in touch. Thanks for letting me know. And I'm just, they understand. Travel's restricted, and it's, if you don't see them for a year, it's not a big deal. It's. And even if you don't see them for 2 or 3 years, it's not so bad. It's nice. I like traveling, so it's nice to go see them and find out what they're doing and what's new and taste the new vintages and get firsthand knowledge. And, it reminds me of talking to one of my Burgundy producers many years ago. He was an American guy, moved to Beaune, went to school, studied at the winemaking school there, but he said, I learned to make wine on the soccer field. And that stuck with me because, first of all, he moved his family there. The French saw, okay, this guy's serious. He's moved his family. He's bought a winery. He's making wine, started hoeing, weeds at some top Burgundy estate. But once they see that you've made the investment, then they start sharing their knowledge and secrets. But it's not in school. It's around the dinner table or on the soccer field, the little tricks of the trade. That really stuck with me. That's it's like little business secrets. If you sit around the table with a very successful business person, you learn something more than you learn in school.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So that was a cool lesson. It's a story I tell a lot. And so it's good to go there every couple of years to find out what they're doing, the new vintages, what's new in the industry, find new suppliers, go see countries, the biggest learning experience you have to see how other people do things. If you just live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and see how the wine business is run, well, it's not. I mean, it's okay, but what are they doing? What are they doing in the States? What's happening in Washington? What's happening in France, Austria, Spain? Put that together, and you come back with a whole body of ideas that you can implement. Yeah. And you only need one idea.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we were visiting some Oregon wineries, just very interesting how with kind of climate change, they're seeing a lot of French Burgundy producers are coming over there. There's a lot of winemakers, but I think that what was interesting, talking to them exactly what you're saying, where they're just talking about all these new ideas and new experiences and new practices that are coming from that. They're getting an infusion of knowledge because it's not so insular. You got something to say, John?
It's not new knowledge; it's old knowledge. Okay. It's new to it's new to us here because we don't have 200 years or 150 years of winemaking, and they take it. Not that the Americans don't take it seriously, but the French do. It's their family livelihood. It's not some guy from the investment business. So I'm going to put in a winery. This is fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth generation livelihood. So yeah, they take it seriously, right? And they come up with, new ways of, want a different answer, ask a different question. And it's helped the overall quality of Oregon wines go from, I first started going there 25 odd years ago, from here to here. It's impressive, the quality of Oregon wines. Also, there's a lot of Burgundian producers go there because land in Burgundy is absolutely unaffordable. Case closed. It's just too expensive. So you have to go in an area that's much more affordable. Yeah.
So then, what do we need? Like, if we look at BC specifically, what do we need to do to take BC wine to, what needs to be happening to take BC wine to the next level?
A whole lot of things, and I know it from the tasting level, and certain wineries are doing certain things. So I'm just looking at it globally.
Yeah.
So I'm going to apologize in advance if I'm insulting anybody or anyone. But the overall global level, the number one thing is we have to get rid of the restrictive trade practices between each province, so BC wines can ship comfortably all across Canada without any punitive damages or breaking any federal offense. That's number one. Number two is we need to bring in, and it's happening, more French or Austrian winemakers, because they have a different perspective, a different way of looking at things, and they have. They have generational, like we had the Kilman. You run out the Kilman tasting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jean-Marc, his family were vineyards. He was 14 years at his family's estate. That's stuff that we need here, that we don't have. We need to bring that knowledge in and make it easier for that knowledge to come in. I like to see the whole area turn organic or biodynamic. Bunch of people are doing it. I like to see, Pedro Pera do a whole thing on the Okanagan. That would really be cool. Or Claude Bourguignon, or who are the guys out of Bordeaux that work on the left bank? Boissonnet, the Boissonnets, the father-son. The son has now taken over. And I don't know if a complete whole soil terroir analysis has been done. I think it has, but maybe it needs to be redone again. I'd love to see junkets going over there, going to Alsace, going to Germany, going to Bordeaux, bunch of BC wineries. Maybe they have done that. I don't know. Again. And a guy like Willie Klinger, the head of the BC, whether it's the BC Wine Institute or BC Wine Growers, however you want to do it, restructuring it. So it's all about quality and getting the name on British Columbia wines across the world. And that's a 25-year challenge. Yeah.
For your first point, in terms of the restriction of BC wines, what could we be doing differently
to get the name of BC wines across? Well, BC wineries, I think BC wineries, if you make 2,000 or 3,000 cases a year or 4,000 cases a year and you sell all locally, you go, well, why do I need to sell the rest of Canada? Why do I need to sell the United States or the UK? You do because we want to get the name from BC, like Burgundy, like the Barossa Valley in Australia. If they just sold to themselves, we wouldn't know about it.
Yeah.
Those regions are known around the world. Bordeaux, Tuscany, Sicily is making huge inroads. Greece makes absolutely stunning wines. So we need to do that to get that reputation out. Everybody knew, what was that, Canada Goose? They were all wearing. I think they're in trouble now, but you look at it everywhere in Europe. The United States are wearing these Canada Goose jackets. Well, why? BC should be promoting BC wines as much as they can internationally. It's bloody hard. It's really hard, especially when you have a country that's focused on their own wines, like France. But going to the London Wine Trade Fair, promoting BC wines, especially in London, because it's really the center of the wine community. Going to New York, and some BC wineries do that. I like to see more of them do that. And the ones that I've spoken to, they sell out. And we're not talking huge amounts of money. Huge amounts of wine, 50 cases, 100 cases. I know I'm talking to Matt Sherlock. He sells a lot of wine to Sweden and Finland, and they buy pallets. They like his wines. His wines are not, they're very terroir driven, very specific wine. They're great wines. Nickel and Lock and Worth, really good stuff. Love it. Right. So, there's no one single thing other than probably the restrictive laws across Canada. And then there's a multitude of little things that need to be done over the next 20 years. Yeah. And what I'd love to see, and I've suggested this in the past, it's kind of my own kind of weird idea. Dig a big tunnel somehow. Hold on. Wait a second. Serious. Make it a temperature-controlled wine cave. Okay. And every year, every BC winery puts in 5 cases of their top wines. It's donated. Yeah. And then every couple of years, do a BC Wine Roadshow. How do BC wines age? Like Penfold does their rewards of patience every 5 years, and they invite winemakers and wine critics and masters of wine to taste the Penfold's wines going back to the 50s. And they'll taste Grange from the 60s. How do these wines evolve? And they publish these books called Rewards of Patience. And I've got them going back. I think my last one's 2004. I should see if I can get a couple more. Anyway, and to see how the wines age. I remember Sue Hodder coming up here, and we tasted the Wins Coonawarra Shiraz from not every vintage, but a 50-year retrospective starting in 1955 all the way up. And I think the tasting was like 8 or 9 years ago. And the wines are incredible. They're fabulous, fabulous wines. We need to do something like that across Canada, across the United States, in the UK.
Well, it turns into a huge event, and it gives you credibility, because when you're saying, like, here, we're tasting these, we're doing these vertical tastings over this period of top wine.
Exactly. And so that's what builds the foundation of a country, of a region, of a producer. You have to look not just, wines in supermarkets, but internationally. But that's not for me. I'm just too busy running my own gig here.
And a nightclub. So.
Yeah, that's another story.
Well, no, that's the story for now.
That's another story. Yeah.
How much of that do you put on the wineries getting together, like you're saying, doing these junkets, doing like really pushing, and how much is on the leadership, whether it's the BC Wine Institute?
I think it's everything. It's government recognizing the seriousness of the value that BC wine brings to the Okanagan. Look, I remember going to the Okanagan Hockey School in 1973. And my God, the Okanagan was a tiny, it had nothing. Highway 97 was, 2 lanes. Oh, Lord, it was just country and rural. Take a look what's happened now. And, you've got Miradoro, you've got just a restaurant in Soyuz. You've got, Tinhorn Creek. Look what Anthony Von Mandel has done with Mission Hill. Cedar Creek, Fitz Winery. I mean, people come to the Okanagan now, yes. Right? It used to be for, ski, summer sports, which they still do. But now the food and wine aspect is huge, and they never treated it, historically, they never really treated it seriously, and they're taking it seriously now. So recognition from the government, BC wineries, all collectively somehow getting together and go, okay, this is what, you're never going to get 100% agreement. This is what we do. This is what we have to do to take it to the next level, and a really strong leader to bring them all together.
And then why, I'm kind of curious, we touched a little bit on biodynamic, but why organic and biodynamic here? And I mean, and I think you hit on this a little bit, like you even said, bring French and Austrian, winemakers and people with experience there. Why? And I think that's connected.
So yeah, it's a different perspective. It's a worldview. As Seth Godin, you just can't look at your navel. You got to look outside. Look at the world, what they're doing. Austria, 80% of their farms are organic or biodynamic. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Why can't we do that here? That could be our goal. So we get to 60. I don't know what the percentage is right now, but say, for argument's sake, say it's 10. If we get to 60, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So that could be our dream in the next, 10 or 15 years. It'll make the wines better. It'll make our environment better. It's like Chile. They're a little enclave, and you can hang your hat on it and say, come and see our farms. And, I like what Chris Coletta is doing. He always posts at Okanagan Crush Pad and Haywire with, her ducks and her dogs and the chickens that she has. It's just cool. It's just cool. And it's the right thing to do. Yeah. It takes time, though. It takes a lifetime.
Do you think customers are more conscious now of where their wine's coming from?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember years and years and years ago, I brought this one little grower in from the Macon. Like, it must be 25 years, and it was $20 a bottle. Now it's like 50. And I said, it's all biodynamic. And I think, what does it mean? So I told them, and they looked like, I think I had horns growing out of my head. And then they would taste it and buy it. And we still get a lot of the wine, and we sell out. And now people are asking for vegan wine and organic wine and biodynamic and all that stuff. So they're figuring out. So all those conversations I used to have in the cellar at our dining room table, some tiny restaurant in France, has now come to our regular tables. I remember talking to some kids, and they said, like, I'm not going to buy that because I think it's GMO. Right? I'm going, holy crap. I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive from a kid. So, the conversation has gone from just the rural farms and the cellars and to people in the street. It's pretty good. We've got a long way to go, though, still.
How important has it been for your business, like for Marquis? Like, how much has that changed for you here?
It's not a huge, it's an important part, because for me, it's important personally, but it's not necessarily, the thing that makes or breaks my business. It's just another cog in the flywheel. That's all. But it's an important cog. For me, it's an important cog. The wines, it's just another way to help sell the wine. And I like that, right? Yeah. I like that. A lot of people don't put it on the label, though, because there's paperwork involved and all sorts of other stuff that they're and a cost involved to it in terms of the regulation. So they'll farm it that way, but they won't necessarily document. This is what they tell me. If they're BSing me, then I'm inadvertently BSing you. So there you go. Yeah. No, but it's just one aspect of the business, right? Wine business is one of those things, retail. If you want to buy an $800 pair of jeans, you don't go to Mark's Work Warehouse. Conversely, if you want, $80, $100 pair of Levi's, you don't go to Holt Renfrew because they don't have them. The wine business is one of those, the wine stores, wine retail is one of those unique shopping environments where you sell a $10 wine beside an $80 bottle of wine. And all the unique people and the assemblage of people come to meet in one place. You don't get that. You don't get that in a variety of stores, right? You want to go to Joe's Grill. Well, you're getting good value and good food, but you're not spending $40 for an entree. You have to go to a hotel for that, right? Yeah. But does it make sense? Yeah.
And then, just something I think we wanted to touch on too is like selling the wine. Right. So how do you think about selling the wine? How do you position it? What do you? I don't sell wine. I suggest. I say, here's what it tastes like. Here's the story behind it, and I'll let the customer make the decision. If I like it, I'll tell them that. Yeah. But I'll ask them, like, what do you like to drink? Because what I like to drink doesn't necessarily what my client. So I have to listen. I want to listen to what my customers' needs are, and all my staff are trained that way. So we ask them, how much do you want to spend? What do you like to drink? Having it with dinner? What are your preferences in food? Or are you just drinking it with friends? Okay, here's A, B, and C. And if they say, I want to have BC and wants to be organic, then it narrows it down a little bit. But they go, I'm going to spend $20, $25, and it has to be doesn't matter where it's from, as long as it's good. Then
then you give them a good bottle of wine if there's a story behind it, like it's organic or it's family or this high plain fruit. Being a High Plains drifter with Clint Eastwood, High Plains fruit, and it has this unique flavor, then that's an attribute. But you have to listen to the customer first. That's important. Without them, you got nothing.
Needs-based selling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Wine is, when you go to a store and you want to buy a pair of pants or a pair of shoes, you get to try it on. Wine business, unless they have wine machines like we have, or their samples, you don't get to try it.
Yeah.
So it's important that the salesperson and we listen to the customer on what they like or what they don't like, and then steer them in the appropriate direction. I'd like to say we're at like 98, 99%. Sometimes we don't get, sometimes we don't get it. But and especially it's the first time, I'll always, for me, I'll qualify. You've been in the store before? No. I was okay. This is my first time dealing with you, so I like this wine. If you buy it and don't like it, you got to tell me. Then I know which way to go. But usually we hit it pretty well each and every time.
How do you differentiate your staff then? How do you train them and have them be an extension of?
Oh, you got to like people first.
Yeah.
Wine is important. You got to like dealing with people. Everybody's got different taste and different way of looking at things. You just got to like dealing with people. And on Davie Street, trust me, we get all sorts of different people. But that's what keeps you real. If you're stuck in some la-ti-da neighborhood all day, then that's one type of client. So we've tried to make our store a destination so the local community supports us well. Mm-hmm. And I like it. It's a snapshot of what's going on. It's reality, man. It's not not stuck somewhere in some fancy neighborhood wherever you want to name, and it's only certain types of wines. So I like it down here. It has its challenges sometimes, but hey, it's a great place.
How is Davie's a really interesting environment, right? How has that shaped your business? Has it shaped your business?
Oh yeah, because we cater to local clientele, right? Yeah. And they want reasonable wine, and they're not wine experts, but they want to enjoy the bottle, and that's really important. So again, as I said, it's kept us all real and kept us grounded for 35 years. 60 actually, if you include with my dad's restaurants and all that stuff. So 60, 1958, 62 years, something like that. Yeah, down here in the West End. So I think we're doing something right, I think. I don't know. My customers will tell me if I'm not, that's for sure.
You get a lot of wine on the shelves, so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to ask?
Anything I want to ask? No, I appreciate you sharing. I mean,
I got one final question for you, John. What's next for you? What's next for Marquis Wine?
Well, we're waiting for Mark Hicken did a review a couple years ago. It's called BTAP, Business Technical Advisory Panel.
Yep.
And you can find it on the internet. And one of the things is that the 12 private wine stores got severely compromised with the previous governments leveling the playing field. And so we're supposed to be getting beer and spirits in the store. Whether that happens, I'm not holding my breath, considering what's happened with all the consider happens with COVID. And we're supposed to be selling, private stores are supposed to be selling, or supposed to be allowed to sell to restaurants, which we're not allowed to do. That's reserved for the government stores. So we've been waiting for that, the latter one, for 35 years. But I'm not holding my breath on that. That just happens in Alberta. They can do it in Nova Scotia. And they can do it in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, but we can't do it here. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to carry specialty foods in here and do a little mini Italy and carry foods from France, Greece, Spain, Italy. That would be really cool.
That'd be really, really cool.
Yeah, but again, I'll just be quite frank. So the previous government allowed grocery stores to carry BC wine. We told the Attorney General at the time, hey, that's offside. It's against international trade agreements. She said to me, no, you're wrong. And I said, actually, no, you're wrong. So I think it was late last year. As soon as that happened, I know the Australians and New Zealanders and the EU people all challenged the government, the current NDP government, and they were forced. And so Save-On can carry imported wines if they choose to do so. So far, they have not. So we were right at the end of the day. So if they get to carry, so they'll have food and BC wine, potentially imported wines, yet we've stagnated here for 35 years, only carrying imported wine. Not saying it's bad, but let's evolve. Let's move up. Like if you go to Vienna, there's a great chain of stores called Wine & Co. And there's a wine store on one side and a restaurant on the other. And the world hasn't collapsed. Everything is in order.
So it almost has collapsed.
Yeah. But it's not because
Wine & Co. There we go.
but it's not because of wine. A wine store being able to sell food.
I don't know, John. That's the lesson I'm taking away from.
Okay, take it. So there's certain things, there are little tweaks. What I've learned in this business is just not one big thing. It's a tiny little tweaks here and there, a policy change of that. Like I'll give you an example. So in my business, we weren't allowed to deliver, we weren't allowed to advertise, we weren't allowed to have an internet site, we weren't allowed to have off-site tastings, we weren't allowed to have off-site dinners, we weren't allowed to sell wine off-site, and I had reasons for all of those not occurring, public safety being one of them. Well, guess what? We're allowed to do all that now. And again, the world hasn't collapsed. So these ideas that I propose to government on a continual basis, either through social media or through emails, all get set and shoved aside, and it's always 2, 3, 4, 5 years before a decision is made. Yeah. So by the end of the 21st century, we should have it all.
Well, maybe the 22nd. You should maybe
the 22nd.
Well, thanks a lot, John.
John.
Marquis-wines.com.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to plug as we wrap up?
No, that's it. Just order online. We deliver. Thanks for all your support. For those of you who are listening out there that have supported us over the decades. I used to say years, now it's decades. Sign of getting old. So thank you. And if any suggestions to get better, let me know. John at Marquis-wines.com. That's my email. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.